Greetings and welcome to another video from Phoenix Counseling. My name is Justin Kennard, registered intern mental health counselor at Phoenix Counseling. You're probably here because your counselors and you got chatting in session and this whole word codependency or codependent behaviors, something along those lines came up. And they said, hey, check out this video where this bald guy is going to talk for a few minutes. Well, that's me. I do want to say that this video is not going to be all-encompassing. Otherwise, we'd be here for 7 hours. You'd be long asleep. I'll long have trailed off on probably talking about the Buffalo Bills and their off-season moves they need to make after falling short of the Super Bowl. So it's just not in our interest to do that. So my goal is to keep this video at about 15 minutes or less. I got notes to keep me on track. So let's roll. Those of you who are in social media and memes and all that, you might have seen a meme that goes around every once in a while. It says, don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. That right there is the meat and potatoes of codependency, codependent behavior. I will also call rescuer, so we can use those interchangeably. That is the thing. The big thing with codependency is we lose our sense of self, me, because I'm so caught up in rescuing the other person and tending to their problems that their struggles and their issues define who I am and my worth. Now, some of you are going, oh boy, hang with me. I don't want this video to be like a browbeating kind of thing. This is an insight thing. This is a learning video. And I also want you to know, quite frankly, you're not alone. In my opinion, this is as common for people to come into therapy and realize just as much as depression and anxiety. So you're not alone by a country mile. So just bear that in mind. I'd like this video to be something that I call a popcorn video, where it causes insights to come, new thoughts, new insights, new understandings. Why? Because the more insights we have and the more we learn about our story, the more we now have, quite frankly, the power and control to change. Because until we understand what's going on and see it, we can't change it. We're kind of just along for the ride. And the whole part of therapy with us here at Phoenix is to write your new story. So let's roll. So we talked about how codependency is really losing yourself and defining yourself with other people. And what does this do? Well, a lot of times the helping that someone with this struggle does is actually rooted in control. It's actually a desire to control the other person. And I know, sometimes that's not the most fun to realize. But it's something for you to stop and think about if this is something you struggle with. You know, what are you really seeking? What do you think that person doing something different or getting out of their problem, why does that have something so internally drawn in you? Where does that come from? These are some questions to start asking yourself internally. Why does it affect me so much when Joe or Sally or whoever doesn't follow through on the thing I told them to do? Or that they just keep going back to this thing? Why do I take that so personally? Cool. We've started that process now of slowing down and starting to allow ourselves the ability to catch up to our own thinking to create those insights. This sense of responsibility we have towards others typically comes, honestly, from childhood. Depending on, it could be a mom, dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, adoptive parent, whoever raised you or however that situation was. Unfortunately, it's likely that one of the, we'll just say parents in this case, and one of the parents put you in the caretaker role and took themselves out. So now you, as little Johnny and little Sally, age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you were like put in charge of regulating them And that became a real value and worth part of how you felt loved. Was making sure that, well, just using this case, that mom was okay. You know, that when mom was upset, I was going to be the one that came along that would always pep her up. And I knew what mom's triggers were, and I was going to make sure that I would smooth them out before they ever could affect my mom. Seems noble, right? But you could start to see the sinister twisting that's going on because a little boy, a little girl, but don't have the brain. Literally, it's not developed. Like, it's barely 25% cooked, is what I say. To really, like, kids think concretely. They don't have the ability, to be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond, even your 20s, to think abstractly, to think very complex and combine all these things. It's a kid's stressor is going to be survival and wanting to feel loved and validated and appreciated from his parents, mom, dad. Again, you can, depending on your situation, auntie, uncle, grandparents, or adoptive. And so you become the responsible person. And what a brutal setup that is, and it's so sad is what comes to mind. Like, it really just robs you of a childhood of just being that innocent little boy, that innocent little girl who, I always joke around and say, as a little kid, we should have had the innocence of, hey mom, hey dad, can you take that plastic thing out of your wallet and get me an ice cream because it doesn't cost any money when you use the plastic thing. Because again, the kid doesn't know that a credit card bill does come due at the end of the month. And quite honestly, they shouldn't know. But when you feel this sense of responsibility toward your parent or caregiver, it puts an enormous amount of pressure that really robs the kid of his or her childhood. And unfortunately, this doesn't end in childhood. This continues on the rest of your life until you become aware of the issue, come to therapy or maybe some groups, support groups or books. A wonderful book, by the way, is Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. Awesome. If you want more than just the meat and potatoes that this video offers, that will give you all the side dishes, the appetizer, and dessert. It comes in audio and then regular, like right behind me, kind of book. Awesome book. So, back to what I was saying, you're going to carry these behaviors into your teenage years, your young adult years, and your adulthood. And you can see how this starts becoming a problem, right? So let me tell you a story about me. I was very codependent growing up. It's just part of my story. I was what I call the butter knife kid, the caretaker, the rescuer. That was my role in the family. And I took it very seriously. To the point where when I was, I think I was 19 or 20 years old, I can remember the parking lot and all that vividly. I was dating a young lady at the time, and my best friend, Will, had gotten a phone call because me, my girlfriend, and my best friend, Will, were about to head into a restaurant. And my buddy, Will, got a phone call from his girlfriend at the time, and she broke up with him. And he was horribly distraught. Like, I can remember it to this day. I can remember where the sun was, where we were in a parking lot. And he's sitting against one of those big lights that are in, like, a parking lot. And he was crying, like, sobbing. And I'd never seen my buddy like that before. I was like, man, I kind of teared up. And I felt bad. But here's where it went off the rails for me. It's okay to feel for your friend, no doubt. I mean, breakups stink. I don't care who you are, right? Never a good time. I then sat there and I realized, man, I don't know if he can handle this by himself. I literally was like, I think I'm going to break up with my girlfriend just so he's not by himself. And then I can help him go through this process. True story. True story. I'm just being honest with you. And I have countless ones of those kind of stories, right? And that's how it starts affecting us. You know, it starts being about the other person and not about me. the myself. Another thing to realize: how do codependent relationships typically end? Starts with an R and ends in resentment. For those of you who are like, what is it? Resentment. Huge. Usually, codependent relationships end in a fireball of sorts. It's just the building up of resentment and anger that you have as a person who is struggling with that, because the other person is not following through. They're not allowing you to rescue them. They keep going back to doing whatever their issue is. They're not letting you care for them and take on how you think they should be doing it. Well, eventually you're going to get so pissed off and irritated, and the other person's going to get annoyed, like, can you just leave me alone, let me do life me? Why do you have to kind of try to control me and come up under me? You're always trying to give me this advice and do these things that I didn't ask for to begin with. And these relationships usually end in resentment and a fireball. What other characteristics could you look for to just be like, I struggle with the codependent? I mentioned it a few times, codependency. When you're giving unsolicited advice, that's a little that's a checkpoint too. Because again, is that a control thing? Are you trying to have them do what you think is best? Do you tend to feel used and underappreciated? Do you struggle to set and or keep boundaries? Do you tend to have a struggle with poorly communicating your feelings, wants, and needs in a relationship? Do you struggle to really know yourself, no matter your age, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 61, whatever? Do you struggle to really know who you are and your identity outside of this helper role? These are clue points for you to look into in therapy and talk to your counselor about. If anything I've talked about today has caused some things to go off, write it down and be, I'm going to say it now, old school. Get yourself a pen and a notepad and write it down. There's something about that tactile thing of writing that really connects to the mind, heart, and everything you're doing in therapy. Bring these questions to your therapist. Say, hey, Justin was talking about this. I'm not sure. What is this about? I was thinking that this might tie to my dad, but I'm not sure. Help me put this puzzle together. Cool. Some of you are like, oh boy. All right, so we've gotten all that out. Like, is there any hope for me? Yes. I am no longer breaking up with, well, I'm married now, but I'm not going to break up with my wife over my friend ending a relationship, okay? It is a process, and healing is totally possible, okay? The first step, always awareness. Got to have awareness in order to make changes. Cool. Second one, kind of a little bit of a gut shot. Got to take responsibility for you. So much you get so lost in helping the other person that you don't take care of you. You don't even, honestly, it's not even usually a thought process to think of you, what's best for you, what do you really need. Even if it's just a vacation day or vacation week, or wanting to stay in one night and just watch a movie and chill out, but someone calls and needs help and you're like, I'm really tired, but I'll slam a coffee and I'll run out the door. No. It's okay to learn about you, set boundaries, which is another thing. Learn to set boundaries and take care of you. Take care of you. You matter. Therapy, a huge part, hence why we're probably having this conversation. The deconstruction process, it can be painful. Again, we don't have a time machine to go back in time. We can't get Doc and Marty to fire up the DeLorean to send it back to 1980 whatever, or 70 whatever year you were born, and go, hey, I'd like to do my childhood over, can I get a redo? Right? We don't have that. So that's a grief point, a major one. And that's sad. That's okay. You're allowed to grieve that. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be angry at who or whatever caused this to develop. And again, I know I mentioned it already, but boundaries. Learning like, hey, someone reaches out in the middle of the night and they're upset. I don't have to be the savior. I don't have to be the one rescuing. It's, hey, I am so exhausted. Can I talk to you tomorrow? Like after I've had coffee and breakfast and a good night's sleep. Can we chat tomorrow? I'll be in a much better place. Cool. Or just realizing, wow, like I don't think this relationship is something that I can continue. Because it's just not healthy and working for me. I'm realizing I'm losing myself. And I'm setting myself on fire to keep them warm. So hopefully this video was helpful. Again, this is just a meat and potatoes, kind of high level. Throw some things at you, see what popcorn goes. Again, if you want the appetizer, all the sides, the main course, and the dessert, excellent resource is Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. So that's it for today. Appreciate you watching, and goodbye for now.